Hello, I'm Sarah McKinney, and today for my video midterm project, I will be presenting Oklahoma, the Integrated Musical Revolution. And we're just going to jump right in. So, in the beginnings, how this musical came to be, uh, already for approximately 40 years before Oklahoma became to be, America had already been staging productions which included music. This was mostly vaudevillian styled or burlesque styled, and then coming from the operettas into musical comedies. The Theater Guild was in trouble, and in an attempt to save the group, they ended up putting Richard Dick Rogers, the composer, together with Oscar Hammerstein II, the librettist. And originally, the title was "Away We Go." That was a working title and did not go over. And obviously didn't last, as we call the musical Oklahoma today. And I have a cowboy and a farmer, as the cowman and the farmer should be friends, as Eller says. A little bit of background on both Richard Rogers and Oscar Hammerstein. All of this information was gotten from rogersandhammerstein.com. Richard Rogers was born on June 28th of 1902 in Long Island, New York, to Jewish Russian parents. His nickname was Dick. He was the first person to achieve a PEGOT by earning the Pulitzer, along with an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony Award. He was the mentor of Stephen Sondheim, and he died on December 30th, 1979, at his East Side home in Manhattan. He was 77 years old. Oscar Hammerstein II was born on July 12th, 1895, in New York City. He was named after his grandfather, who helped build Broadway. That would be Oscar Hammerstein I, who was well known for translating European operettas for the American consumer. He also received a PEGOT or was able to achieve PEGOT status, and he is still the only person named Oscar to have won an Oscar. He included many of his personal beliefs of equality in his shows. He was a big believer in that people should not be uh, ostracized or hurt because of the color of the skin or the culture they're from. And we can see this in almost all of his works, from Showboat all the way through to South Pacific, Flower Drum Song. He just anywhere he could, we see issues of racial inequity and social status issues, all and cultural issues, and bigotry being addressed and combated in his stories. He did die on August 23rd of 1960 at his farm in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. He was 65 years old, and his death is what ended the collaboration between himself and Rogers. They by all intents and things I've seen, they would have continued working. In fact, on rogersandhammerstein.com, they quoted Rogers as saying that he mourned Hammerstein every day of the rest of his life. They had really formed a great partnership in the 16 years that they worked together. Here's a slide with pictures of Rogers and Hammerstein young, first starting out working together, and then one later on towards the end of their collaboration at their desk working. Oklahoma. Oklahoma was an adaptation of Green Grow the Lilacs, and it stayed really true to the core story of Lori really being in love with Curly already, the farmhand being thrown in the mix, who was a true outsider to the cowmen and to the farmers, um, and her turmoil over coming to terms with the fact that she was in fact in love with Curly, admitting it. Ado Annie was in the story as her friend, but as a very small part with a different personality. And Ali Hakim, who is the peddler. The peddler does exist in Green Grow the Lilacs. However, it's just a short bit, and he's just known as the peddler. So they expanded characters like Ado Annie and Ali Hakim, and added characters like Will Parker to also extend those characters and their arcs throughout the story. Again, Ali Hakim was a great example of Hammerstein really wanting to break down some of those barriers between people culturally and where race was being addressed. The show opened on March 31st of 1943 at the St. James Theater in New York City. However, opening night was not sold out. Not only was it not sold out, they had already resorted to giving comp tickets to actors' family and friends, and had to go all the way down to offering free tickets to passing servicemen outside the doors, just trying to get a full house. This did turn into have great luck in the end, um, in that all of the reviews for Oklahoma were just that it was fantastic. Right away, it had review after review after review that it was beautifully done, wonderful. So it paid off. They uh, wanted to cast unknowns in the script so that it could keep integrity. They built this as more of a play with music continuing the plot and the story, which again was almost completely a first. It was the first to do all of the things together. Showboat came close, which was an earlier Hammerstein II work. Um, but they cast unknowns so they wouldn't have to do the bit pieces. Uh, those comedian special talents where they would show up in the scenes. They did that to avoid those moments. We also can see an original cast picture. This is from rogersandhammerstein.com. It is the picture that is on the cover of our book, Our Musical Ourselves, but it is they enhanced the color and brought the color to life, and so that we could see it how it was actually presented on stage. How exactly was it different? We keep talking about, like, okay, they were the first integrated musical. They were so different. What does that mean? Awesome. Here's what that meant. John Kenrick claimed that throughout the show, every word, number, and dance step was an organic part of the storytelling process. Instead of interrupting the dialogue, each song and dance continued it. For the first time, everything flowed in an unbroken narrative line from overture to curtain call. Um, we see that in an article by Rogers. Um, the new direction reached its culmination in Richard Rogers and Oscar Hammerstein's Oklahoma in 1943, in which music, story, dance, and setting were fully integrated to tell a semi-serious story. You can find that in Brockett. And then Maslin said that what made Oklahoma groundbreaking as a narrative musical was not simply that it told a story. Dozens of opera and operettas and musical comedies had done that for decades, but the ruthless discretion that Rogers and Hammerstein and their collaborators deployed towards dialogue, music, lyrics, staging, dances, and decor in order to tell that story. Maslin also argued that it should not be called a fully integrated musical, or argues, not argued, and that it should be called a narrative musical because the narration, that story, was key to everything. Throughout all of the readings that I did, they talked over and over again about how each designer, like the choreographer, every single person was involved in creating a very cohesive story. So it wasn't just about creating a costume that showed off the actor or showed off the actress, or was in a color that they liked. Everything was about creating a cohesive picture and a cohesive world, which was very different from everything that had happened before. The show had comedic elements, but lacked the gags, wisecracks, the off-colored jokes, the puns, the double entendres, the specialty slots for the comedian. In other words, they got rid of all the shticks that came out of vaudeville and burlesque. It became its own thing, much more akin to an actual play. They started their story with one of the most unexpected opening numbers in Broadway history, a song about the bright golden haze on Oklahoma meadow. Begun offstage and continued as a serenade by a bow-legged cowboy to a mature lady working away at a butter churn on her porch. It may strike few people in the 21st century as revolutionary, but compared to what else was playing at the time, it was. These other shows that were on Broadway at this time, you walked in, it was a big showgirl number, uh, revealing costumes, just big, glamour, beautiful, showing off the girls. And that is not what Oklahoma did. So from the very moment the lights came up, from the very first chord played by the orchestra, the whole of the audience knew this was something different. The lyrics and music for Oklahoma were simple and folksy, not jazzy, and did not conform to the AABA format that was popular in show tunes and in Tin Pan Alley songs at this time. We're going to see if this will play for us, but everything in the story, the continuity of it, that was so key in creating what we now know as like the template for a musical or for a lot of musicals. Everything came from the story. Every song and dance number was a continuation of the plot and character development. It included the ballet at the end of Act One instead of as an opening number. The movie version, 1955, held true to the staging of the stage performance. It was only in a dream ballet that portrayed Laurie's fears did her bare shoulder dance hall girls get to indulge suggestively in a can can. So we're going to see if it will play. I'm having trouble with it playing. I will put links to all to this video, but again, we do they kept the ability to see that showgirl moment. However, it was secluded to a very small part of the dream ballet, and it was in the nightmare part of the dream ballet. It was not in a happy, we're in the cantina type of thing. It was definitely uh, in the nightmare part. Right, lasting legacy. We see that, or we're able to know that while Hammerstein was working with Irving Berlin on Annie Get Your Gun, which both Rogers and Hammerstein were producers of. Hammerstein is said to have responded to Berlin. Berlin was saying, like, wait, the songs are coming from the script. What is this? And uh, Hammerstein said, where do you think the songs from Oklahoma came from? Like, of course, that's what we did. That was the point. And then uh, shows which followed the format of Oklahoma included, they're definitely not limited to this because there are so many other shows, but these are ones that came more in a close timeline to Oklahoma. Roger and Hammerstein continued in their format with Carousel, South Pacific, The King and I. Uh, really, um, almost all, or if not all six of their collaborations followed the same format. We also seen it in Lerner and Lowe's Brigadoon and My Fair Lady and Camelot, Loeser's Guys and Dolls and Most Happy Fella, Burn Stairs, Candide and West Side Story, Stein's Funny Girl, Brock's Fiddler on the Roof, Herman's Hello Dolly and Mame, Cantor's Cabaret and Zorba. Just any and every musical that follows the plot or the singing comes out of strong emotions, comes out of a continuation where the characters don't even necessarily realize that they are changing into song, but that all the songs and all the dances and all the costumes and all the set, everything is one story, one world built with continuity. That is what we got from this. That is the legacy of Oklahoma. And then I have my work cited, which were several articles from RogersandHammerstein.com, both about Rogers, about Hammerstein, about Oklahoma itself, uh, and as well as several or two textbooks, other books, and some journals and articles. So I hope that you feel informed and excited about this. Oklahoma holds a special place in my heart as it was the first musical I ever performed in. I've got to do it twice, both in ensemble, and it just the telling of a story of America at a time where we were fighting in wars and really coming in. Um, it just it was a beautiful piece of American history, Americana, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation.